People get asking me what do I think the future's going to be like for people like grandchildren and their children. And I've had made comments on that in various places in the program, maybe even on my web statements. So it's probably a bit repetitive. Yeah, and I guess it's just really hard to predict because who would have predicted when I was a kid just what we'd have now? When I was 5 or 6, would I have known I'd be speaking into a video camera um, like this and actually video it onto a computer and on the World Wide Web that anyone in the world could look at it? Would I have ever thought that? Maybe in the most extreme science fiction stuff, but certainly I would never have thought that. So, how can you predict? And will there be the same level of sort of development and progress? Possibly there will. I can't predict that either. But I do know that I just keep coming back to the importance that I know that mathematics and is going to have in the whole thing, and how that's going to actually probably have possibly the biggest impact. And mathematics alongside the I guess balance of power of computing to be able to do the math, and so which is the speed of computing and the amount of memory available to do it. And incrementally, we've just seen so much more of that coming through on the programs that are analysing data on the web. And I've been doing quite a lot of the picking those up and trying to put them into my interesting sections and so on, because I think we are at a bit of a cusp there, and that will just boom along. But also just the seamlessness of the way that computing and interacting with machines will actually be in the future. For example, will children need to actually really learn to spell? Because you'll be able to have a background application that will just actually pick up what you're trying to say, and through just trying to work out what word you're trying to say or how you're trying to do it, it'll just actually flow through in some way that it'll tell you that that probably wasn't the word you wanted to say, or maybe that text wasn't quite right, or how does it actually fit into what you're trying to actually produce. All those things will be in the background and just increasingly part of what you actually do, which will go back to even the Gordon Bell things, I think, in terms of your past history being just so readily available, coming through to actually inform you what you're doing. For example, it may well be that if you on a Monday head off down the road in a certain direction, and that's not what you normally do, that your GPS will pick that up, and the computer in the car will say, this isn't usually the way you go to work. Is there something not quite right here, or are you going to a different place today, or what's going on? And you'll think, oh, I had a bit of a blind spot there in terms of thinking where I was going. I was going to head down to the supermarket rather than going to work, so I'll correct my course. Just that, well, that's a pretty trivial example, but just that sort of thing in terms of interacting with a whole world of databases and things. And I guess the thing is that the power computing you're going to need for that is just going to be so immense for it to be seamless, because if literally millions and billions of people are actually doing the same thing, using the same computing, whatever, it is going to be tremendous. I mean, it's fine to have a few people doing it, but for everyone to do it, that's, I think, where the real power of the future will be, that trying to get the well, I suppose when you think about it, Bill Gates said his aim was to have a computer virtually in every home. Everyone had access to a computer. Well, I guess the next step will be everyone having access to the computing power, which is much, much, much more than having access to a computer, because the computing power will be so much more immense. So maybe that's a good way of looking at it, the future, that the next step will be access to total computing power as opposed to just a computer. And that computing power will be through the web, obviously, or whatever the web looks like in the future, and how that actually works. Because as Tony and I were saying on the weekend, that the way that actually the interactions will become even more pervasive in terms of things like lighting will actually send messages out to the world. Your microwave might actually send out a message into the kitchen about what's happening, and so on and so on. So, yeah, I think the future, seamless, more pervasive, really much more interactive in terms of computing, massive increases in the computing power in terms of speed and memory capacity, and just the overall influence of mathematics and all of that all coming together, I think will be the future, more than actually any actual device or thing which might actually be different or totally, yeah, it'll be much more of an integrated, seamless type of thing that'll happen. That's my prediction, at least for the next 100 years maybe. How about that? 100, 150 years? Yeah, but who knows, as I say, just who knows.